Greetings again, everybody. Welcome back to Dark Souls 2. Now, before we actually go where we want to go, let's talk to Mullen, because last time we kind of failed to show off the final part of his quest line, which has him sitting there real smug-like.
Sorry, have we met? Oh, sorry. It's just I've been awfully busy lately. Care to look over my wares? Please, be my guest. I upgraded my stock recently, although it may be a bit out of your reach.
So Mullen now sells us the Alva set of armor, which looks really cool. We're gonna buy it and use it for the time being. But if we had 0 souls while talking to him, we'd also get a little goodie from him, the Aura set. This is easy to accomplish if you just die or use the dark sign.
Thanks for the purchase. Do come again. I'm rich! I'm rich! I don't need to go home anymore. Home? Home? Where is home? Home? Are you sure? Well, I may sell out while you're away.
Mullen also sells the sets of various bosses we killed, by the way. Right now we can buy the Smelter Demon set from him if we wish. Much like Melentia would sell the armor of NPCs that we killed. Anyway, back in the Grave of Saints, which is part of the pit, and we're gonna go deeper this time around. In fact, we're going to pretty much reach the bottom, and we're gonna explore the bottom next time. That's a pretty big skeleton, by the way. It is reminiscent of the Tomb of Giants in that there's a giant skeleton right there. But that's about all this has in common with the Tomb of Giants. But keep the Tomb of Giants in mind for now. In Dark Souls, this was the area where Gravelord Nito resided, which was kind of a lord over the dead. By the way, there's a lot of coffins there. I wonder if that means anything. Anyway, there's an item there. This is actually how you're supposed to get it, only with a little more grace and success. The item there is the Disc Chime, which is a shield that can also be used to cast miracles. It's not that good. So let's not do that dangerous jump again and instead focus on, well, the things that don't possibly kill us. It's very possible to make that jump, by the way. In fact, this was the first time I actually failed it. And this Crystal Lizard is of course easily killed if you just manage to plunge attack it, but well, it's not as easy as it sounds, but definitely I did it once. One didn't bother to try it again ever since. But still, if you're in need of Titanite, you can certainly try your luck here. And this is actually the pit again. If we had bought a more expensive ladder, we could have gotten down here way earlier without even going through the Grave of Saints. What I do like is that they actually let you skip the Grave of Saints and Doors of Pharaohs entirely. Or rather, they let you skip the parts of them that are actually part of the Rat Covenant, which happens to be the entirety of Grave of Saints. But now we're in New Game Plus, and those of you who like a certain manga might already have recognized who I'm cosplaying as this time around. It's kind of Guts from Berserk. Berserk kind of inspired Demon Souls and Dark Souls to some extent. Anyway, Guts is pretty badass, and he is known for using a huge sword, being clad in black, and having a prosthetic left arm, which features a repeating crossbow as well as cannonballs. Now, we can't really use cannons, but I think pyromancy are a pretty good substitute. And the Evelyn is a crossbow that actually kind of qualifies as a repeating crossbow, even though it only fires 3 shots at once. It's most useful with elemental bows. I normally use lightning bolts, but I happen to be almost out of them. And of course, most people use Evelyn. Well, they use 2 Evelyn, let's put it that way. Which can actually kill anyone pretty easily. And those 2 red phantoms are only there in New Game Plus. Like, I managed to draw out 1, but normally you'll probably have to deal with both of them at the same time. And standing in water, we don't really want to get hit by lightning. Or rather, this is not lightning spear that she's throwing, that's actually sunlight spear. Now, sadly, just being in the water will increase the damage, but we will be wet from just being in the water, so if we get on dry land again, we'll still be a little bit weaker to lightning. So it's best to just not let her cast the sunlight spear at all. Or make it hit the wall like so. Normally, of course, you're supposed to wield the greatsword in 2 hands, but well, I also like the one-handed moveset a little bit more, although it's much more powerful two-handed, of course. And that one female we just killed actually dropped the Dingy set, which happened to be Anastasia's set from the first game, who was the Firekeeper of Firelink Shrine. But yeah, after Simon Belmont, I thought it would be fun to make another gimmicky character. And using one from a series that actually inspired this game, or rather the Souls games in general, seemed like a good fit. Well, to say that it necessarily inspired the games may be wrong, I can't really be sure here. But the fact is that Berserk, much like Demon's Dark and Dark Souls 2, is actually a, well, Western medieval fantasy setting made by an Eastern mind. And this just might be what happened, because they're both kind of really dark. Although Berserk is more grimdark for the sake of grimdarkness, while, let's just say, the Souls games are a little more elegant in that regard. And this here is a token of spite. Sorry to point out the obvious, but it's kind of important, because if you don't play online, this is your only way to actually join the covenant with the crazy guy. What's it called? The Sanguine Covenant? The Blood Covenant? The one where the guy has the hots for blood. Oh, and heartbeats? Actually, no, those aren't heartbeats. That is poison pumping through those statues. If you destroy every statue that's nearby, you will not hear it anymore. There's still one more there, but anyway. This is why I hate those statues, in case you didn't get it yet. This is actually one of the few areas in the game where a torch is really useful. The game kind of railroads you towards a bonfire even, which is really nice. But, well, let's just say if this is your first time going through the area, you might be tempted to go the other direction, and in that case you might miss the bonfire completely, if you're a little unlucky, but I'll show you how that can go later. For now, I will want you to remember this dog here. He is not particularly special compared to other dogs, or dog-like creatures, but I want you to remember him, even though I just killed him. Let's call him Steven, and let's always remember him. Alright, so this is actually a completely optional part of the area. And there's a lot of those sleeping, or I should say idle, hollows. Sometimes they just sit around or lie on the ground, but if you don't kill them, they just might get up and try to kill you like those guys. But they're pretty slow, so not really a problem. If they hit you on a New Game Plus, they do actually pack quite a punch, as you can see here though. And it seems that those guys don't like the statues either, because they just hung one up there. But then again, there's others which is still there. Some people say that those statues are a reference to Maiden Astraea from Demon's Souls or Rhea from Dark Souls, and while it may be true that those are actually references to those similar looking characters, it might also just be a coincidence. The only thing I can say for sure is that they're a pretty fucking annoying obstacle. This area features a lot of points of no return. As you might have noticed, we just dropped down someplace and there's no way for us to get back up. I'm not sure if I like or dislike this design decision. On one hand, it kind of discourages exploration because you will never know whether there is a way to easily get back to where you were. And on the other hand, it kind of forces you to make a decision, which is really nice. And lighting up all those sconces with a torch can actually give you a pretty good sense of accomplishment of having conquered that part of the area. And as you look back on the part you already explored, you will see a lot of lights, which is kind of a nice touch. This area in general I have a love-hate relationship with. On one hand, I think it's kind of lazy because it's just a lot of wooden platforms and they all have the same size basically, most of them anyway. But on the other hand, it's kind of neat atmospherically. It doesn't quite reach the levels of the areas that people compare it to, which is the Valley of Defilement from Demon's Souls and the Valley of Defilement 2.0, also known as Blighttown, which is better known, of course. But this one actually has very little in common with Blighttown, except for the fact that there's quite a bit of very shoddily built shanties or other wooden structures. And here we have another, well, not really a point of no return, but we are required to make that jump to actually get back to where we were previously. But now we get a little surprise as well. Not only are there more enemies, we also get to deal with a red phantom invader called Melinda the Butcher, which is reminiscent of a phantom that we actually encounter in Blighttown in Dark Souls 1. She's called Man-Eater Mildred, is basically naked save for a sack on her head, and she also uses a giant butcher knife, much like that one, which actually wears the prisoner set, which is nothing but tatters, but increases item discovery. We can also get that set from the regular hovels here, by the way, so it might be a good idea to grind them if you want to have higher item discovery. And this is not how I prefer to fight her, but it's my own fault for accidentally knocking her down there. It's kind of bad because that way you might accidentally knock her down or fall down yourself. It's a more difficult fight for sure. But then again, if you accidentally knock her down, it's not really much of a deal because all she can drop is her axe, which is a weapon that you can also buy. The only benefit of getting it from her is that it will already be +3 if she drops it. But there's a very small chance that she will actually do so, so not really much of a problem if you just want to kill her by making her fall to her death. But that's not how I prefer to do things. And normally I would just use the bonfire or the sconces to light my torch again, but I have a lot of flame butterflies and I might as well use them. The torch is not required, by the way. You can very well go through this area without it, but it's much easier on the eyes if you use it. But anyway, back to new game, and as a little gimmick to this bit, I'm going to try to recreate what happened the first time I went through this area ever. You can see, you're supposed to go to the right here, which will drop you right down to the bonfire, but what I did instead was go up here and drop down there because, well, it seemed like a safe place to land. And in fact it is. The only problem is that you can't really get back into that thing which would lead you to the bonfire, so you'll have to find a different way to proceed. And of course you're gonna have to drop down quite a bit. Now don't get me wrong, this is still gonna get you pretty close to the bonfire, but oh well. I'll just let you see what happens. Yeah, kind of a dick move. You spot the bonfire and fall right into those people's house. I suppose we just crashed through their roof and they're just defending their home and we're kind of the dicks for murdering them now. But it's best not to worry about that, because we probably killed people who just tried to do their thing for a while now. Because see, the gimmick of this area is, or rather the lore behind it is, that it is the place where they put all the filth that no one ever wanted. It is called the gutter, fittingly so. And those guys, they just might be some individuals who nobody really wanted, we don't really know why. But apparently they built those really shoddy structures to reach the surface again. At least that's my personal interpretation of it all. We can't really get any further in this part yet, and in fact this door only hides one set of items, but we're gonna be back here later once we can actually get there. And the walls, actually, you probably noticed, have this really nice touch in that there's some really gross fluid just constantly flowing down it. And there's pillars constructed of just trash. Various trashy pieces of furniture, even stuff like that, and also that gross stuff. And yeah, this part of the area, of course, is just as optional as the part that we just cleared in New Game Plus. Most of this area happens to be optional. You can actually find a item within those set of pots that I just skipped. It has the Dark Pyromancy Flame in it, which will increase in power if you're hollow, and will get more powerful as you go more hollow. Those dogs here can be pretty vicious. Like for instance, this attack, it comes with very little warning and can hit you pretty easily. Luckily though, you can actually stun lock them really easy, as long as you do enough poise damage. If your normal one-handed attacks don't do it, you might just want to use a heavy attack instead, or even go two-handed. With a mace, this is possible with just the heavy attack. But just to be on the safe side, you might want to use the stone ring, which increases poise damage. In case you don't remember, it's the ring that you actually get from the ogre in Things Betwixt. It's basically the first enemy that will attack you if you approach it, but there's certainly other living beings that you can piss off and they will attack you too. By the way, a lot of this ground might look like you will fall down if you walk on it, but it's actually safe to walk on most of it. I mean, just look at that. Looks like you should drop through there. The gaps are certainly big enough. But anyway, the way on is actually down there. And if you look up there to the right, you will see a familiar old face. That dog up there, that's Steven. So if you come from the bonfire, you can pretty easily get here. This is where the optional part ends, because you'll have to come here to actually get through the area. But, oh well, kind of got unlucky there. Thankfully, we can now use the Steven shortcut, or rather, we could have used it all along. But I didn't even use it this time because I'm dumb. Let's take out our anger on Steven himself. I mean, I killed him once, then he killed me. And I'm gonna kill him again, and I think that's fair. Those guys are still dicks. Thankfully, opposed to those in Last Bastille, they don't actually petrify us. However, they can, opposed to those that we actually fought on our way here, below the bridge, where I actually dropped to my death when trying to get the disc chime. Well, those don't explode when they do their drop thingy. The others there did, which means the ones we already faced, we could just kill those by basically walking away from them and triggering their attack. The one we just fought doesn't do that, so just kill it. Those prisoners, I think they're called, usually die in one hit anyway. They have ludicrously low HP. But anyway, if you ignore the optional parts of this area, it's not very long. But on your first time around, you're most likely going to take the same route as I did in New Game here. But yeah, it's just a kind of area that constantly throws you off just a little bit. For instance, that one time I saw the bonfire and then drop down. Or even if you go the other way and drop down to the bonfire, you don't really expect that either. And there's a lot of crumbling floors, and who knows, perhaps there's more in this game, or rather in this area. And yeah, there's a lot of poison attachments in this room, but if you go that way, like along the right edge of the platform, you'll actually not get hit by any of those poisonous darts. Or rather, you will, but it'll be much easier to actually dodge them. And up ahead we actually see a whitish fog gate, which is, of course, where we're supposed to be headed. And that bridge we just saw down there, that's actually the bridge that we just passed a little bit earlier. We're just going back over it. So, yeah. This is also kind of a dick move. You can just drop down here. You're not really, like, it doesn't really look like you're supposed to drop down here. Or rather, it does, but none of the other spots actually make you drop. And observe as I am an idiot here. I should be ashamed of myself. You see, to jump over there, there's actually around the corner a little bit of place to actually take a run, but I decided to do it that way, which killed me. But we're gonna see that bit from the other side, don't worry. Alright, back here, just keep in mind that down there you could catch a glimpse of my bloodstain. This will get important for when we try to actually reclaim it later. Which is gonna be fairly soon. But for now, let's explore this little cave here, which we actually can explore opposed to the last one we saw, because there's no weird door at the end. Just that one chest. And a couple of those deceptively deadly enemies, of course. And inside we find the Wicked Eye Great Shield, which was one of the shields designed by fans for the shield design contest. It has a neat effect. If you wield it, every kill will give you a little bit of health back, much like the Ring of the Evil Eye. However, to my knowledge, the effects don't stack. So you're best off either using the Wicked Eye Great Shield or the Ring of the Evil Eye. Oh, and there's another dog down there, but as long as you can take care of those easily, you definitely should take the easy way. I mean, getting close and personal isn't too difficult either, as long as you can stun lock them. But if you can be absolutely sure to kill them without taking damage, you should definitely do that. Right, there's one more little side path before we actually want to go through the fog gate. And it's right in here, and there's something rather odd looking. Aside from those insectoid mushrooms, of course, there's this big thing that kind of emanates a bluish fog or smoke. Now, if we were poisoned or had poison buildup, this would actually heal our poison. This thing is not bad at all. Like, it doesn't attack us, it only helps us. But we don't know that, so let's murder it. I'm sure it's gonna be totally worth it. Certainly does take a lot of hits, though. I mean for something that they want to make a point of not being hostile. Yeah. And all we get, of course, is some poison moss. You're better off leaving that alive. Really, there's no harm to it. While it's not very useful either, because you have to go there to actually get healed from the poison, it's still something that you can just waste your time on killing. There's nothing that I know of that makes it worth it killing. Okay, so this room, yeah, you want to look out for that wall. It's kind of important-ish because there's this bonfire here, which will make it much easier should you die, which is surprisingly easy. We're gonna go now. That, and you might actually miss the first bonfire in the next area if you don't exactly look out for small cave entrances. And see, that's where our bloodstain is supposed to be, right over there. So why isn't it there? I didn't cut out another death or anything, it's just not there anymore. Otherwise I'd now jump over there to get it and then jump back. But I guess those souls are gone forever now, even though I'm not supposed to have lost them. But anyway, it's time to just move on. There's a couple ladders in this room that go down, but it doesn't really matter which one you take. All of them will lead you to the same room. There's a couple of items on each of the platform that they lead down to, but I'm not going to show that all. It's not really worth it. Like, if you want to get all the items, you should figure out how to get them yourself. And that over there, well, this is how you can get to it and how I did get to it once, but not this time. Today's not my day with the jumping, I suppose. So let's not do that again, and instead climb down. Obviously, to get there you're supposed to take another ladder and then, well, do your thing and drop down there. But definitely, if you care for the items here, I'm not gonna grab them all. This is not a completionist playthrough after all. And they're not really hard to get. It just would be really tedious to go up and down just to grab everything. And this is actually the very bottom. There's a couple more of those guys. I was unlucky enough to have them swarm me a couple times, which I'm not quite sure how that happens. Like, as soon as I went down the ladder, they actually were already aggroed. I suppose this is something that just sometimes can happen, but also sometimes doesn't. And the Great Club is pretty similar to a weapon that we already used when we explored Hate in New Game Plus Plus, the Large Club. It looks a little bigger and is better if you don't have as high strength, but if you go for scaling, the Large Club is actually better than the Great Club. And those weird pots contain acid, so yeah. Use something to destroy them, be it heavy bolts, iron arrows, fire bombs, throwing knives, or a miracle like Emit Force. Perhaps you could also throw a fireball at it. There's plenty of options. And oh hey, look, another fog gate. Well, this looks pretty interesting and oddly vast. And it also looks like we don't really need our torch anymore. But let's not actually explore that this time around. There's an easily missed bonfire really close by, right in here. Like, I reckon you didn't even spot it. Unless you actively look to the left, you will miss it. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this episode. See you again next time when we explore this place.